I'm your daddy.
I can be smart when it's important.
I'm your daddy. I'm
sorry to this
I'm your daddy.
Welcome to Daddy Dailies, a podcast hosted by Not Your Daddy's Films. On a film set, dailies are sent out after a shoot day so you can see the work in progress. Daddy Dailies are conversations that go behind the scenes so you can see what work went into the process and be better armed to succeed in the industry. Daddy Dailies, hosted by Not Your Daddy's Films.
Hey, it's Coco.
Hi, Coco.
Hi, Case.
This is our first time doing this together.
And we're very excited about doing it.
Sorry, giggling.
So basically, I know who we're talking to today, but Case connected us with this very amazing, loving woman. And do you want to tell us who it is?
Yeah, so the guest that I have brought on to speak to the daddies is Zoe Cassavetes, who is a director. Zoe's credits include Broken English, a feature film that she directed, Day Out of Days, a feature, and she has done many episodic series, Emily in Paris, Sex Lives of College Girls, Dollface, Uncoupled, The Summer I Turned Pretty. One of Coco's favorites.
I'm obsessed.
Yeah, so she's dope and
Yes.
very experienced and exactly the kind of daddy we want to be talking to give us all the tea and all of the advice. Also, she's really hot and wears cool shoes.
That is true.
Yeah.
She glows. We are very excited for this episode, and we'll bring her in right now.
Hi, Zoe.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi,
So,
Coco.
for context, I met Zoe on a series called My Dead Ex, which it was maybe I think you were the second female director I'd ever worked with, and I remember watching you and being like, this is so fucking sick, and being very inspired by you and being like
I'm blushing.
no, but I was just like, this is really cool. So I'm so happy to have you here and like
it's
so
such a
excited
pleasure.
to talk to you about everything you're doing. You were, one of the first female directors I worked with, and I just remember feeling so comfortable and confident with you on set. But so seeing you work has definitely been like one of those experiences that I was like, oh, I could aspire to do something like this. Like, I feel like you made me believe I could like own a set and like do the thing. So
Cool.
I just wanted to know like how kind of context of your life. Like, when did you start directing? Are you give New York vibes, but I think you're from LA.
I always say I was born in LA, but New York's my hometown.
Yeah. So kind of, give us a little bit of when did you start? You said you were a PA at one point.
Yeah, I mean, I started in the 90s because I'm old. And really, I actually, after high school, I didn't really know what I was going to do. My dad died when I was 18, and it was sort of this weird thing. And so I did go to college for a minute and was like, I don't know what this is. Why am I voluntarily going back to school? And then, so I went to American Academy of Dramatic Arts afterwards, and I grew up in LA. So what was I naturally going to be? An actress. Except there's just one problem. I suck. Like,
did you know this at the time?
No. I mean, I kind of felt
Are you
it
sure
underneath.
you suck? What
Yes, I'm absolutely positive.
Whoa.
It's bad.
That's admirable.
And I know what's weird is because I feel more comfortable just performing like my life and being me in real life. And I love actors and I love the idea. And I think maybe the whole idea that I wasn't good, but I had studied so much and I felt how much work actors actually did put into making things happen, and that there were better ones than not, and people more dedicated and not. And so, and my mom's an actress, so I really know how to deal with actors, and I like them, which I think is a big thing. They're not just there to facilitate me. I like them. I want to see them do good stuff, and it excites me.
And that's a huge thing to be able to direct actors too. And I think maybe, being an actress for so many years probably helped you speak to actors, work with actors.
I mean, I was certainly comfortable with them. Many, acting classes later, I just get very comfortable with actors. And then, so I graduated from then, and I tried to be an actress, and I went on a lot of auditions for like movies that were really big, and I just was like bombing every one of them. But everyone was being really nice about it. It wasn't like now. They were like, well, it's a great try and thing.
Oh, I wish.
Yeah,
I wish we heard back.
No.
So lovely.
And then in like 3 or 4, Sofia Coppola and I were friends, and she said, do you want to do this show? It's called High Octane. It's like literally us running around, like interviewing people.
We
like,
literally have. We're like, can you please tell us about these photos? Because they're
Well,
epic.
go on YouTube. You can watch all 4 episodes we did.
It's so cool.
But it's and recently, I don't know, maybe because everything is so 90s now, that there's been a couple of articles about it. And I was showing a friend of mine because it's on YouTube, and we were just sitting around and he was cracking up and he's like, this is the most quintessential 90s thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And I was like, you're right.
It's so chic. Like, it's so cool.
I mean, they bashed us so hard when we were doing it. They didn't really get it. And they didn't understand that we were being tongue in cheek about everything,
It's,
you know?
it's so cool.
We had so much fun, but rewatching it now, I was like, wow, Beck is on it, and like Gus Van Sant and
Yes.
Keanu Reeves and the Chili Peppers. And like, it just felt really 90 in our outfits and our hair and
Yeah.
everything. And
I
it
think
was
we
like,
bring it back, honestly. It's the time.
it's time. And nobody wants to see us do it, but someone else should do it probably.
So sick.
So I did that, and then weirdly had a very small, strange stint on MTV's House of Style
Okay.
with Cindy Crawford,
Wait,
who-
love.
who was amazing. But, you know, she was the star, and they shot her in like 16 millimeter, and they were like, go and find your person. Here's a guy with a video camera, go. And I was like, I'm not good at this. I mean, I'm good at fine, but like the whole like asking people to do things was awful. I hate doing that. It's like, and
Yeah.
I'm better at it now, and people want to do it. I'm just like, no one's gonna want to do it. So I did that for a second, and then I realized one day I went back and I had an agent meeting, and he was like, so tell me why you want to be an actress. And I literally went, oh my God, I'm so sorry to waste your time. I don't want to be an actress.
Whoa.
Bye.
Oh, I just got the chills.
And I got in my car and I
Yeah.
was like screamed of joy.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, and that's the thing. And so then then it was the 90s, and it was a beautiful time of making movies. People were like, here's $5 million. Just go make
Seriously.
it. And like, and they were great movies because
Yeah.
artists had creative control.
Mhm.
And so I worked as an AD on a couple of movies, totally by chance. I moved up from a second to a first and realized I absolutely didn't want to do that.
Right.
It's not even though I don't have ADD, I have OCD. So it was like a nightmare for me. But I realized I love being behind the camera.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you were ADing, did you feel kind of lustful to be the one in control?
Oh, completely. I was
Yeah.
like, I need to run this show.
Yeah.
That's the job I want. And it wasn't to be in power. It's just like, I'm a very efficient person, and I'm also not a very combative person, and I trust my gut. And so I feel like those things are things you need to learn, and to trust yourself and be like, I remember even when I made Broken English, I was like, I'm sure that what everyone's saying is wrong and I'm right, but I went with it, and then I knew I was right after. So I think experience is key,
Totally.
you know, and gotta just be yourself. I
Mhm.
think, not just because everybody can make a movie doesn't mean everybody should make a movie.
Yeah.
100%.
And including me. So then I was living in New York. I was working at a hotel. I was the director of sales of the Mercer Hotel, and it was really fun.
So many
and
lives.
oh my God. And you're gonna have so many too. You're gonna be like, whoa. And then I made a short movie while I was there.
Yeah.
And that was the moment where I was like, oh, this is great. And I loved every step of the way.
Mm.
I mean, writing is like, feels like it's always the biggest torture because you can't go anywhere unless you finish the writing. I actually like writing.
It's masochistic.
It is.
To do it by yourself.
Oh no, I just wrote a script with someone. I'm like that, and I'm writing another script. I'm like, this may be the last script I ever write by myself. So fast and
Yeah.
things. So I made this movie. We went to Sundance. It was like, and I got an agent, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to make a movie. I'm just going to make this movie. So I wrote a movie, and everyone was like, no,
Oh.
no, 4 years. No, I don't get it. I don't this. I don't understand.
And did everyone after Sundance kind of give you like, oh, it's going to be easy? Like, were they like, or not?
No. I just knew I always had a feeling that nothing I ever did was going to be easy.
Sure.
And even though that pisses me off sometimes, it forces me to learn and shape it the way I want to do it. And especially as you get older, it's like you have zero fucking time for bullshit.
Definitely.
So, I like that about myself more. And so I made that, did the thing, and then tried to make a movie, and then did make the movie, which was really fun and crazy, and like you have more energy than ever because it's like you've been willing this thing to happen for so long, and you're like, no one's taking this away from me now. And then you make the movie and you cut the movie and you think, and then your producers tell you how much better your dailies were than your cuts and all those fun things, which is so enthusiastic. I mean, I don't need to be praised, but I need someone to tell me what they like so we can go in that direction.
Sure.
It's not really about the praise of it.
And was the short at Sundance, it was not a proof of concept, right? They were two totally separate projects.
Totally separate.
And did you have the feature before?
Not at all.
Okay, got
Not
it.
at all. So I wrote it and I rewrote it and wrote it again and ate a lot of slices of pizza. And luckily my friends still worked at the Mercer and I could eat there. And like, really. But I think it made me not spoiled,
Yeah.
and not that having a famous last name feels like it's spoiled, but it's also a total curse in a way.
Definitely.
So I always was like, I'm just going to do this on my own.
Mhm.
Do the thing. And like, I should have probably taken more help, but no, it's not my style.
Do you feel like at least skill set wise, having the experience of being an actor first brought you more confidence on doing that first feature?
Probably. I mean, my house was where my parents made all the movies. So I was always like hiding under a table watching. I was always fascinated by the whole process, fascinated watching my dad writing, all of it. So it just felt like home in
Yeah.
a way,
Totally.
I think the best thing to do is just make sure that you have people around you that really believe in you, your crew.
Mhm.
Definitely.
I love my crew. My crew comes first.
And do you stick with a lot of the same teams in your
I try
projects?
to. And then, but sometimes I make a movie in New York and they're in New York, and then I gotta make a movie in LA and they have to find a new team, but they all know each other, so they help,
Nice.
which is great.
Mhm.
And I was going to ask too, do you think you were just saying you were watching so much when you were younger? Do you think that how did that influence your filmmaking and your style and your aesthetic and like everything you like?
To be totally and completely honest, I don't think I had a style when I started. I mean, it became my style
Right.
because that's what it was, and I
Mhm.
liked it, and I took every time I found something, I took it and brought it into the next one, which I guess is experience. But
Yeah.
I mean, only recently, and I mean, like in the last month, I put together my website,
Mm.
and I was like, oh shit. I have a universe. I haven't even seen that I have this universe,
Mhm.
because what happens to artists, we get really insecure.
Totally.
Mhm.
Doesn't stop, by the way.
Yep.
In fact, it may get worse.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think I love movies. I've been watching everyone's like, how many movies do you watch a week? I'm like, I watch 3 movies a day. They're like,
Oh,
how do you have time
wow.
to do that? I'm like, oh, I just find the time.
Yeah.
It's important to me. It's what I do and it's
Yeah.
what inspires me. And
Part
so
of the job.
I love that. And I guess I think the thing that I took that was my style from my parents was this sort of communal family feeling as you make a movie.
Mm.
Like, we have the luckiest jobs in the world. We all get to
Totally.
work together doing this. Like, shh, don't tell anybody, but let's all have the most fun, I mean, it's gonna
Mhm.
be hard and it's gonna be challenging. Fine, but, like, what are we in this for?
Yeah.
Right.
Certainly not the money.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've been on so many sets that are just miserable. And it's like exactly to your point, like, why are we doing this? We're doing this to
Yeah.
make art and have fun.
I want everybody, also when you start, you really think that you have to do everything or it's not your film.
Mhm.
I think that's a really big thing that happens. And then now I'm like, if like the catering guy comes over and he's like, why don't you guys do that? And it's a good idea. I'm like, yes, we are
Yeah.
so doing that. Let's do it right now.
Mhm.
Good ideas can come from anywhere. And if
Yeah.
to be open is the harder thing than to
Yeah.
be like, this is mine.
Definitely.
It's
Well,
not yours.
that's a great point for then when you entered your second film. I feel like for a lot of people, what's really daunting is making that first project. But in actuality, it can often be the second
Sophomore
one.
slump.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're like, oh my God. So how do you feel like whether it be finding your voice, your creativity, or success you found, how did any of that set up you getting ready to make your second project?
Cojones. I mean, you're like, when like the first one, there's like the unknown, right? So
Mhm.
you're like, I'm just doing this. And like you put all your effort and you're like, why is everybody tired? We've only been working 16 hours. And then the second one, you're like, hold on a second.
Mhm.
There's got to be better ways to do this. And I'm not the smartest person when it comes to my career, to be honest. Like the second movie I made, I was like, want to just make the movie I want to make, and I don't want people telling me who's in it or what I should do. So I made a movie for $350,000.
Amazing.
It was a challenge, but it was also great because we were such a small crew. We just were like Game of Thrones. I never saw Game of Thrones, but every Monday, everybody come back and like talk about Game of Thrones. They were setting up, and it just felt like what I wanted, which was family.
Yeah, you're building that communal
Yeah, and
set
just
that you
like
wanted.
I want everyone to have as best experience they can have on set. That I mean, I feel like being a director is like so much of it is setting the tone.
Definitely.
And then, doing the work. But if you don't set the tone, and I spent some time on sets as an actress. I'm air quoting, guys. And I watch a lot of directors work, and also, and I saw what I didn't like out of them and what I would do, and also being a first AD was really interesting because you always have to learn every single person's name on set. And I took that with me where I'm like, it takes me a minute to know.
Yeah.
And I'll ask you again. I'm like, I'm sorry, what's your name?
Yep.
And then I'll spend 2 minutes talking to them and asking them how to think. And it's like, guess what? Makes everybody feel better. And then and I'm not doing it to be phony. I'm doing it because I actually care. But then the work is better. The day is better,
Totally.
What would you say then for our audience without needing to throw shade necessarily?
I love shade.
Okay, well then please do. What are things that you learn? You're like, don't do this, guys. Like, don't learn from the mistakes that I've seen or the mistakes that I've made of just first time director. It's not worth doing these things.
Well, that's an interesting question, actually, because I think every time you learn something, I think it's all about your confidence, really. It's really about building your confidence more than anything. It's because, I mean, there are directors for hire. I'm one of them on TV. I love it. It's fun. I love being on set. It's great. Love making money and having insurance. Fantastic. But I need more. I need to create stories. I want them to be deep. I want them to be something that touches me. And if it touches me, I'm sure it will touch somebody else, hopefully. But you have to like it the most of anyone.
Yeah.
And then move on from there. So I think, like I said, like all that chatter in your ear about you have to do this or it's not done this way. I remember I lived in France for a while too. And I was doing on a shoot and I said to the DP, I just want like, I don't want to see your chin. I don't want to see her forehead. I just want to see her eyes and her nose and her mouth. I'll be right back. I come back. Shoulders above the head. I was like, no, not like that. Just like I'm showing him like this, just like this. It's not done like this in France. I said, well, today it is. And I came back. Still not listening to me. I said, give me the camera. I shoved in. I said, you know how to use a camera? I said, yeah, I know how to use a camera. Shove in. There. He said, but you're cutting off her head. I said, I know. This is what I want. And so, you have to learn how to, pick your battles and then fight for stuff that people who know better, which is, sorry, I love my DPs, but they always know better. And they're great. And they do. I mean, it's like, I couldn't do it without them, obviously, but sometimes everybody gets into how they like to do stuff. And I'm like, I just realized the best way is to be able to bend as much as possible while still keeping your own integrity of the story.
And you were just bringing up how, like, director for hire. So, you've directed Dollface, Summer I Turned Pretty, like so many wonderful episodic shows. So I
I've
think
been so lucky. Yeah.
Yeah. So our audience is like very young and like young in
They
a
watch
sense-
all the shows I direct.
Well,
Yes.
but also young in a sense of their careers and like wanting to do what you're doing. So I guess, like, do you have any tips for the episodic process? And could you just tell us about, what those steps are that you've taken to?
I mean, I think perseverance and luck of just getting in the table. I think it's better now because they've opened it up to women. They've opened it up, and like, or at least considering more than just that tiny slice, that's always been there. It's still, I mean, I can't even remember how I got DeadX, but that was so fun.
Yeah.
And so that was really my first.
And how did you know any of the Awesomeness TV people, or were they just like, hey?
I don't remember. I
'Cause you
remember
had two
going to
features
Awesomeness
by
and
then.
meeting them. Yeah.
Right.
And then I don't know. I can't remember. It was so long ago.
It was a minute ago.
But then, yeah, it was a minute ago. And then, but my first real break was Emily in Paris.
Mm.
And I mean,
And I'm sorry, just to ask, do you know if that was agent connection or if
this
they
was
reached out
a
to you?
very crazy way of this happening. And this is like basically how my story won't be your story, but it will be that crazy, you know?
Mhm.
So I hear that Darren Star is making Emily in Paris. I am married to a Frenchman. I lived in France for 6 years. And I was like, who's better at knowing about this than me? Come on.
Mhm.
So I kind of stalked Darren Star for a little bit. Lovely man. Thank you, Darren. And
Does he know you've stalked him, or is this
I
first
mean,
time?
it seems like the amount of times I called him seems a little stalker-esque, but and I was like, I can help you. I have experience. And he was super nice, but it was sort of like ambiguous what would happen. And first he wanted me to maybe write. And I said, I don't think I am good in a writer's room. I don't know if that's really what I want to do, but I would love to direct. And wow, that coming out of my mouth was big.
Oh,
It was a big thing for me
Yeah.
to actually say what I wanted and like let the air like hanging in the air. And he was like, oh, okay. Like he taught me how to not say yes or no to somebody right away.
Yeah,
which
totally.
is also
Which is a skill.
very good skill. And this and that and this and that, and I did this and that and showed them this and made things and thing. And then suddenly they're like, okay, you got it. And it was like, wow. I mean, it was just so exciting because I mean, I grew up watching Darren Star shows
For sure.
and
And did you have to like pitch anything, build anything? Like
no, I didn't do the pilot. So thank God, that would just seems like a lot of work.
Yeah.
But
seriously.
I got there. I think I did episode 3 and 4 in the first season, but it was great. And I have to say, Darren Star knows how to make a set happen.
Yeah.
It was like one of the greatest crew I've ever worked with on any level. But then they got wind that I spoke French, and I do, and they were like, let's have 6-hour meetings in French. And
Oh,
by the
no.
end of like prep, I'd go home every day like, but I think
Such a huge scale show too. Like, was that so fun?
oh, it was so fun because they're like, okay, the Eiffel Tower is in the background of your shot. Do you want it to sparkle? Now, I lived in France, and I know that for those 3 minutes, it cost 10,000 euros to make it sparkle.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, well, I think it
What?
would look better. I mean, yeah, let's do it. And you're like,
Oh, that's amazing.
shooting in like the middle of
Oh my
Montmartre
God.
and the street and the thing. Like my husband rode by on a bike and he's like, is this where you're shooting? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, that's impressive.
Mm.
Don't tell anyone. So, and you're in Paris. And Lily was amazing. Everyone was amazing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, I mean, Lily's one of the hardest working, not all business, but she's lovely and like never complains. And she's got a lot to do, a
Mhm.
lot. The hair, the makeup, the clothes,
Yeah.
the things. She's just like, she's great.
And that's what I was going to ask too about actors. Like, to your question of what's something you shouldn't do to actors as a director, what's something they just shouldn't do?
I would say more often than not, you're in a hurry to shoot a scene, complete it. And when you want to change something, you should not run in the middle of a scene and yell a note at your actor. You should take them aside. You should think about what you're going to say to them. But it's like everyone's like, sometimes it can be like, panic, and you're like, we just want to do this thing. And like, so Katherine, can you just be sadder?
Yeah.
Like that's the worst.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I've done it before and I'm like, oh shit, that sucks. I got to pull that actor aside and just take a second.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And because you're not a piece of meat,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and this is, so I try to remember that. And I think that for me is the best thing. Like,
Yep.
it's art. It takes time, it takes a little bit of process, even if it's 30 seconds,
Mhm.
but you just throw somebody. I don't like being yelled at anyway.
Mhm.
I don't think anybody does. I mean, some weirdos do probably, but in general, it just doesn't, inspire greatness.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say.
That's also such a beautiful way to explain that too, because if you think about it, it's different energies that are happening at the same time. Like the life that is being lived on screen does not have that fast pace we got to push through. So it's like you got to figure out a way how to, when you cross over into the other line, it's not babying people. It's like, no, we actually need to keep the energy
Yeah,
of what's
keep it-
happening in this room vibrant.
And actors need to feel safe in order to
Mhm.
do their best work and not feel like, the principal is watching them or something. I don't
Right.
like that
Right.
idea. I
Yeah.
want, like, often I ruin a take by my squealing of joy. Sorry, God, that was so fucking good.
No, but that's good. That's
You know,
great.
Yeah.
So I like my job.
We want to continue just episodic. What is that experience like? You named some of the projects, so I won't repeat them, but obviously very female forward productions. Can you talk?
Sometimes
Oh.
Oh,
Uncoupled wasn't.
well, speaking to then, I'll ask Dollface, Sex Lives, Emily in Paris, Summer I Turned Pretty.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
But
We were like, are there men
Men-
behind
I
all
know.
of those shows?
but
Some of them,
yeah, would
Yeah.
be curious about maybe our perception about the way it's shown on TV is actually very different than what it's like behind the scenes, because that's what we wanted to know. It's like it seems kind of rare that a woman has been able to work on all these women forward shows, but is that not the case, or how is that?
Oh, it
worked
is.
out?
I mean, I have, and they. I mean, they're women forward shows as far as content type.
Mhm.
A lot of times, there's something very interesting about being a TV director versus being a film director. When you're a TV director, you're not the boss.
Mhm.
You're a conduit,
Mhm.
and you better figure it out really fast. And, but I was so mad, and I want to do this, and I want to do that, And then I thought, oh wait, they're there to help you. They're not there to no one's here to they've asked you to be here. Don't fight the system.
Right.
Learn the system.
Mm.
So sometimes it can be frustrating, but you learn how to collaborate
Mhm.
better.
Make sacrifices.
Much better. You
Yeah.
make sacrifices, learn to be very concise about what you're going to say. So it's just practice,
Mhm.
And then you've got someone kind of behind you to guide you. So I think that's a good place to start
Mhm.
directing. And I'm going back on Monday. I'm going back to North Carolina to shoot the new season. Last season of Summer I Turned Pretty.
I have so many
Oh,
questions.
Yeah, I know. Well, she's obsessed with that
I've
show.
just started binge watching it last week, and I was gonna watch one episode,
course,
and
yeah.
then my boyfriend sat down
And he liked it too, right?
I mean, tried to leave the room at one point. It was like, I can't allow myself to like a show like this, and then continued to watch from our kitchen. And I was like, get your ass back in here.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's our show.
We need to discuss.
Wait,
Yeah,
that's so
Yeah.
exciting.
yeah,
That's
it's great.
awesome.
And
for them to bring you back, it's like that
Yeah.
team, that family.
they're incredible. Jenny
that's awesome.
Hahn is
Mm.
one of the showrunners, and she wrote the books.
Mhm.
And she is talk about. I call her Hanosphere. I'm like, you have the Hanosphere. She's the coolest, and she just is very. I mean, she's about 10 years younger, but she knows what she wants,
Mm.
and deeply,
Mhm.
but in a joyous, wonderful way. That's it's inclusive.
Yeah.
And it was she and Sarah Serka, sorry, hard name to say, is the other showrunner, also incredible. And they came to me and they were like, listen,
Oh.
we don't know how to direct, so we're going to want you to do that. And I was like, ooh,
Mm.
yay. Wait, what? Yeah. So there was so I had a lot of freedom, and I really loved the show. And I loved the idea of working on the show because it was kind of gentle.
Yep.
I don't, Euphoria is great. I like to watch it, but I'm like, oof, I don't know if I want to shoot. That seems like, wow,
rough.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I really, at the time that I got Summer I Turned Pretty, I felt like, oh, this is exactly what I want to do. And it's funny, I went to Wilmington. I fell in love with Wilmington. I mean, I wouldn't live there, but I fell in love with this cute town. And the whole process of it was lovely. And all the cast are just lovely. I mean, everyone, the crew is lovely. It's just a great experience. And so I'm so happy that they asked me back.
That's awesome.
Well, for what is it? I believe episode 2, season 2. I know that originally Belly does not lose her virginity in the books, but then they did it for the show. So speaking of knowing what you want, she changed her own material. What was that experience like for you with an IC? The actor said that they had an IC for that scene. Was
intimacy
Oh,
coordinator.
yeah.
I'm like, what's
You were like,
a Slurpee and icy? Sorry.
Yes, for everyone listening,
yes.
IC intimacy
That was my
coordinator.
actual first time working with an intimacy coordinator.
Please speak on
Yes,
that.
yeah.
I'm so curious.
I think, I mean, what we were doing was very tame,
Mhm. Mhm.
So, I think the actors were young and they're like, we trust Zoe. We just want to do it. And I'm like, no, it's great for me because it's weird. It's gross sometimes to be like, can you just, and then you're bending down with a viewfinder and you're like, I'm an old creep. So to be able to discuss your desires of what you would want to happen, and then have them go and just not say they're there when you rehearse and stuff like that, but for them to say, how comfortable do you feel about this? Because they don't want to let down the director, and they don't want to get fired. I mean, not that they would, but they don't want to let you down, and they want to do their best work, and suddenly they feel prude. But I think that's bullshit. You should do what you feel comfortable with doing. And I think it's great to have them. I think a lot of people don't like them because they're not used to them.
Yes.
I mean, I was on a set. Well, it's funny. I actually had an intimacy coordinator meeting this morning, and she asked me those questions exactly. She's like, well, it's a male director too. So taking out that kind of awkward feeling when I'm on set. But also I've been on a set where there was an intimacy coordinator and a male, and it was just, he was just brutal to her. And I was just like, she's here to make everyone comfortable. Like, what are we doing?
About the intimacy coordinator?
Yeah.
Yes.
He just
they
didn't
don't get
it.
treated very well sometimes.
Which
and
is wild.
Can you speak on what specifically did the IC do to make, like, that is not overstepping on your job? Because again, I think a lot of people don't know what they're there for.
Agreed. I mean, I like to talk to them in depth, first, and say, this is what the scene is. This is what I want her to do. Like, there's a scene in Summer I Turned Pretty. She takes her bra off, but you don't see anything. But it's like this very tender move. And I wanted to make sure that Lola was comfortable with that, and since she's 19 and, it's like kind of weird to do in front of a room full of people, and so we talked about that, and then she goes back to Lola, and then we discuss what kind of broad. I mean, it's like, it's a whole sort of thing that's about consideration. And I would, it's like, yes, women definitely need that protection because, well, we're women, but I mean, but it's like, through the history of time, it's tend to push the envelope, let's say, a little bit.
Yep.
But men are asked to do that stuff now too. And I think everybody should have like their representative when it comes to nudity on film. Because it's like, as we know, anything that goes on film or video lasts forever now. So
Yep.
Stressful.
I know. Like, okay.
So glad to grow up in the 80s and 90s.
In general, do you feel like, just going back to, I guess, what we were asking before, do you feel like you've gone out of your way to find projects that are very women forward?
No.
Have they found you? I mean, that's just such an amazing...
I guess we found each other because it just was like, oh, do you want to meet this person? Do you want to meet this person? And like, it was 2020. I was in France, like in the middle of the countryside during COVID. And I had a general with Mindy Kaling's executives, and we got along. And then they were like, okay, do you want to do the show? And I was like, whoa, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And then, like you say, work begets work. And then I came back from doing that. And then I had a phone call about Dollface, and they were incredible. They were like, it was like the best call ever. I'm like, are you my friend that I already know? What's going on?
That show is really cool.
The energy was great on that show. And Michelle Nader, the showrunner, is amazing. So, I mean, you have... I just grew up thinking that you could be whatever you wanted. I didn't really think about female, male thing until people really started putting an emphasis on female director, male director. I never considered myself a female director. And in fact, I like to often say, what male director are we using today?
That's great. Yeah. Well, also, and I hope we get to a point where it's like, we don't have to use female director, because it is kind of tired.
Well, in a world of all of these pronouns and different things and what we call ourselves, like, I don't believe in putting myself in a box.
So to that, like, what kind of stories are you interested in telling? You did the Miu Miu. I want to hear about the Miu Miu short that you did for like it was a fashion film, essentially, right? Yeah. Like, did you like doing that? Did you love that?
I did. I like beautiful things. Yeah. I want everything I make to be beautiful. And I know a lot of people don't seem to want that as much as I do. But I mean, when you grow up with like watching all these incredible filmmakers make their films, like, I'm like, I just want it to be cool. I mean, like, on top of the story, I want it to be really... So I do like doing fashion films because it's all mood, and beautiful clothes and beautiful hair and makeup, and beautiful jewelry. And you're like, this is not going to look bad.
And did you get to take that short to like any of the big festivals, or like any of the...
Okay, first of all, anytime you can work for Mrs. Prada, jump at the chance.
Yeah, let me just call her.
I know. I'm like, great, let's do it.
Yeah, she's wonderful. And her whole team is incredible. And so they've done many of these films now. They've done, I think, 25 of them, about I don't know, 10 years ago, they're like, do you want to come to Venice? We're going to show like 5 of the films. I'm
Oh,
like,
that is so cool.
yeah. Do I
Wow.
want to come to Venice? Yes,
Mhm.
I want to go to Venice. And she had the screening, and then she had like a party in her foundation. It was so amazing. And then you realize like you're wearing Prada clothes and you're like, oh, I only want to wear Prada because this is rad. And she's so lovely and generous. And so you feel appreciated and you feel like you're part of something as opposed to just an appendage of something, which I
Yeah.
think is very, I think is really generous and cool. And obviously fashion and film go hand in hand so much of the time. So
Mhm.
I feel like even more so lately. I mean, even watching Saltburn recently, I was just like, this
Yeah.
is a fashion movie.
Yep.
Like it's just
it's
Color
almost,
splash.
I know, but it can be distracting in a way
Yes.
too.
Yeah.
So you
Agreed.
have to find that sort of balance, I think.
Where do you feel your preference lies between TV or film, and film in the context of when you're in control and you're the one who came up with and created the story? Do you find that you prefer elevating and collaborating with somebody else's original creation, or you want to make your own thing?
What do you think?
I think the first one, but it's
No,
interesting.
I want to
Oh,
make my own movie.
okay, because that was,
Yeah.
or you want to make your own
I
movies,
mean,
right?
I like both. I
Yeah.
like being on set.
Mhm.
I also
Yeah.
like getting paid. So that's like a part of the TV world that's, I mean, I'm just being honest. Like everybody,
Yeah.
got to make some money.
Yeah.
Shit's expensive
Hello.
these
Yeah.
days. And I just saw like an $8 cauliflower in the market. I
Oh
was
my
like,
God.
oh shit, where it's over.
Yeah.
So
She
it's like a nice balance. But
Mm.
the problem is like once you start making money, you're like, I love money.
yeah.
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 I love it so
More
much.
episodic.
Well, I've also never heard somebody speak so passionately about their enjoyment of episodic.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I do think that's really beautiful to not walk in with the energy of like, this is just a paycheck and I gotta go home. The fact that you're like, I like seeing what's already been built.
I
And
mean, it's
like,
all a learning experience. And
Yeah.
it's like that thing where like, you just invited me to the party. Thanks.
yeah.
Totally.
I'm into going to this party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you come home and you feel good about it. The problem of artists is we have way too much time when we're not doing something,
Oh my God.
which is why we all have major anxiety and like, ADD and all those
Mhm.
All the
things. And
fun
it's
things.
so I think, what you're doing is spectacular. And like, the best years of my life are when I just say in January, I'm just going to say yes to everything, even if I'm just loath to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then like, I was like, oh, I met my best friends that year and I made this project and I did this and the thing. And you're like, okay, yes. Because my normal word is like, no.
Yep.
But
No,
yeah,
for
and it
real.
really like, then you meet people and you just,
Yeah.
you broaden your horizons.
Well, speaking to then having a lot of free time when you're not working, I think a lot of people hide from that. What do you say you do with your time?
Interesting. When I moved back about 11 years ago, when I moved back to LA, I went to like a Chinese medicine doctor. And on the thing, it was like, what are your hobbies? And I was like, is drinking one of them? Like,
Yes.
and I was like, oh, I mean, I can't write that. Can I? And then, and it got me thinking like, shit, what are my hobbies? What do
Mhm.
I like to do? And then I like to garden.
Oh, okay.
Like, I like it a lot.
Really?
And it's like a total Zen thing to watch
Mm.
things grow. And, I mean, I didn't, and it's like an interesting thing. When I started, I sucked, but
Mhm.
then I got better at it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you have to remember, practice is really everything in this experience. Like you aren't just born knowing stuff.
No. Do you think it helps you? I mean, now I'm asking, I guess, specifically for myself, because sometimes, like,
Ask away.
I know I was going to try to phrase this in a fancy way. Let's just be specific here. Sometimes having hobbies, I don't like it because I'm like, I feel like I should be working on my career. I'm not allowed to have fun. And so I'm curious, like, where do you find that balance between in the free time, this is what I'm doing to pursue, trying to get another job or whatever, and how much you like, no, I got to chill.
I'm a workaholic as well. And I also have that. I think everyone, at least in this town, is like, if they're not doing something, they feel like a loser.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Totally.
And also, but you have to remember as an artist, you have to like give and then take. Because what are you going to say if you don't take something for yourself so you
Mhm.
can give it back? So, I mean, I take photos too. And I travel a lot. We go to France every year for a couple months. And, then I really go garden crazy and wine crazy.
Oh my
And,
God.
but I write.
Mm.
But now I've been trying to like not officially mentor younger filmmakers, but I've found a lot of them in my realm. Like there's one I met in my Pilates class and she's awesome. And she's like, I love that you give me advice. I'm like, I'm here for you anytime
That's awesome.
because it's something that I wished I had.
Yeah.
We
And
talk
that-
about that all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that it's good that you're doing this because then you just ask.
Yeah.
You're just asking and then you get it, you know?
Yeah. And so what are you writing? What is this
Oh my
awesome
God, it's so
project?
crazy. It's weird. It's like a movie between the difference of Gen X and Gen Z, but it's set in the Greek islands.
Oh.
Because my dad told me one thing: right where you want to be.
100%.
Wow, yes.
What a
Yep.
You're like revelation.
that's
I know. I'm like,
awesome.
why have I never thought about that?
Is it a
Right?
comedy? Is it a drama?
I mean, it's sort of outrageous. I've never written anything with such outrageousness in mind because I'm 53 years old and life is different now. Like I'm not a contender. I'm not young. I'm not the thing. And it's like this reflection of sort of feeling insignificant after having done all the work to be significant just because of your age.
Yeah.
So, and it's not you because
No.
no one can tell you what it feels like to get old, but what it feels like is that you still feel like your age inside this body.
That's yeah. I feel like
So you're like, wait, I'm still in it.
Yeah.
And you have to, so then by the time you get to be my age, here's my advice. Just do all that shit so you can do whatever you want on your own. And then no one has to tell you how old or insignificant you are.
woof. But that was, I mean, beautifully said and
Yeah.
amazing. And like,
Woof.
I literally.
no, just like society is rough. Like,
Yeah.
it's
You guys
just,
look sad now.
No, I
My
mean,
birthday is on Monday, so it's hitting hard.
Oh.
It's 29?
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Trust me. When you're in your 20s, you're like 30 is old. And then you're like, no, it's not.
No.
Anyway,
But 50,
50 is the new 40.
But 50 is not old
That's
the
at
thing.
all, which is crazy that there's this pressure.
and so much like, I mean, a comment earlier, like so many lives, like you have so much to say. You have so
Yeah.
much, that you've experienced. And like, that to me is like better art,
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
yeah.
You think of like all like Antonioni and Rossellini or whatever, they all started in their 40s because it was the war. And they started like 40, 41 years old. And they've made some of the best movies I've ever seen. Fellini, no, he was too young. So he did another thing. But yeah, so you just had to find, there's also like a great, I think it's in maybe New York Times or LA Times, like a Writers on Writing whole series where writers just talk about writing.
Yeah.
And it's so like you feel comforted by the fact that these brilliant writers also struggle in some way.
Absolutely.
I feel like that's also the topic of your film is like such a relevant thing right now. And with the conversations of women and I mean, aging is such a, like on TikTok, it's like everything that's slammed in your face is like, this is how you can look better. This is how you can look
Yeah, and
younger.
this is how you can lose 20 pounds. This is how
Yeah,
you
and
your
it's
liver
like-
doesn't have to die. This is how
it's-
you're
Like,
maybe that's just mine.
But it's like, yeah, we just need to be feeding young women like actual something to say rather than just like what you look like and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean it's a weird time. And I think finding the humanity in anything is the way of art.
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm so excited to. So do you know, like, you're in the process of finishing it and you said you had a deadline. So
Oh, that was another script.
Oh,
and I finished
excuse
that.
me?
Sorry, I've been
Oh.
writing
Oh
a
my
lot.
God. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's when I wrote with someone and we wrote it really
Oh,
fast.
amazing.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
yes, yes,
So,
yes.
hopefully you'll be doing another movie this year or next year.
Yeah, I probably, to be honest, I'm always like, yeah, it's going to be in September. And I'm like, no, it's not. So it'll probably be like spring next year. And
Awesome.
that seems like quick. already.
With pitching, now that you have this story, is it, I mean, I'm sure you know more people in the industry. You're not fighting for the space necessarily. Is it easier to know, like, I wrote this thing, it's going to get made now?
I hate pitching more than anything in the
Oh,
whole wide
okay.
world. It's like, read the fucking script.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry. I know there's tone and stuff, but like,
No.
there's a girl. And then she comes in like, and then the second thing, you're like, that's not how I work. That's not
Mhm.
who I am. You read that. If you read the script and then we can have a conversation, I'm going to answer all your questions.
Yeah.
Right.
But this whole sort of like,
Well, it feels like an audition.
and like, especially on Zooms,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then the stone faces, and you're like, should I slip in a joke there? Then that falls flat, and then you lost your, no,
Or
I
the
don't
camera's
like that.
off.
I don't like this. Like, you want to go to lunch, you want to have a drink, you want to sit in your office, but we need to talk because I'm not a robot. I'm an artist. And they get those two confused a lot.
Definitely.
Let's write that down on the shirt. I'm
Wow.
not your daddy's shirt. Because that's
our next quote.
I'm not a robot, I'm an artist.
That's amazing.
Well, so do you still have to pitch though, or is it?
Fuck yeah.
Oh God.
It never ends. You just get better at it. That's all.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah. Okay.
You get better at, like, I used to be like in the car, just literally body shaking, like doing like scream therapy, like just get all that energy on. I've already been like on a hike and Pilates, and I'm a bad tester. So I feel like that is in the realm of testing.
It feels like
Oh,
a test.
And
yes,
I
'cause
don't.
it is.
'Cause you feel like you're proving yourself.
In fact, I don't even resemble the person that I actually am when I do that. So I don't think it's right.
And I
So
don't think they take it into consideration a lot of the time either. They just kind of like,
and then you just get bad feedback, and you're like, well, I mean, they didn't actually make any facial expression the entire 20-minute pitch, so I kind of got lost for a second, and it's dark. But the thing is, it's like you just have to look at it as a game. Like, I'm gonna win.
Yeah.
I'm gonna win this.
You want me to be a robot? I will be.
You want? No, it's just like, I'm gonna prove that robot theory wrong with my real life personality.
Yeah.
Yep.
And on that note, we're going to start with a game.
Yes.
And it's called Hot Seat. So we're going to just give you like random questions and answer them however you will.
Slightly shaking. Sure.
So what is your favorite rap drink?
I love a martini. Well, I don't love a martini because I don't like vermouth, but I like vodka, like just vodka with an olive, really cold, like it's a martini.
Okay.
Oh, nice. I love that.
What was the last movie that you loved? It doesn't have to be your favorite, just most recent.
I loved Past Lives. That was my favorite movie of the year.
I feel like
I mean,
everyone was...
I became obsessed with Greta Lee a little bit before that, and then really enjoyed her on Morning Show. I really thought she stood out. And then when I heard about Past Lives, I thought, oh, it's the kind of movie I like. I really like small three-handers, and just everybody was just excellent. The direction was excellent. The writing was excellent. And I just felt like, after I saw it. So.
Yeah. I was shook by the fact that it was a $25 million budget.
What?
For a first-time filmmaker. Isn't that wild? I mean,
she's good.
Yeah. She was a playwright before, so her stuff was like,
I feel like
respected. But
we should actually, that's a good thing to discuss, because in my head, I can't tell if 25 million is a lot.
It is.
For a first-time director.
It's a lot for that
anything.
kind of film as well.
Yeah, because it felt
it's a small
very
film,
indie,
but there was
right?
a lot of travel and there was a lot of things involved, so maybe that added to the budget.
Shot on film. So pretty. Okay. What movie describes your current vibe?
Hellraiser? I don't know.
I think that's a good answer.
I think it's pretty good.
What's your favorite restaurant in LA?
I'm not a fancy restaurant person. I
Really?
used to be. I mean, I can go for it once in a while, but like, I just want to eat a lot.
Yeah.
I don't want anyone judging me. Oh, I know. Like, I'm super into Thai food. Thai food is like my jam.
Yes.
So there's this place called Love to Eat Thai Barbecue, like LUV number 2.
Is it in K-Town?
No, it's in Hollywood. It's on Sunset, just in Hollywood, and it's in a mini mall. And there's a mother, a daughter cooking duo. They have a Michelin star. And it's incredible.
Oh, whoa!
I recommend.
Oh,
Okay, we'll have to.
I love Thai
we'll,
food.
We'll write that down.
What's the no shade to any job on set, but what's the last job on set you want to be doing?
PA.
Oh, that's so fair. Honestly,
I didn't even think about
it.
If it was something that was more like,
And I can say that because I've been a PA. So,
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I feel when I'm a director and like we wrap, like it's weird for me to be like, well, bye. And everyone's doing stuff. It makes me very guilty until it doesn't. And I'm like, okay, bye. I got other things to do. But I think it's I think it's an important job. Everybody should be one. Everybody should be anything on the way up so they understand when the next person comes how they should be treated.
absolutely.
Definitely.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. It has been
You,
so
Coco
wonderful.
and Catherine.
Thank you so much.
You guys are rad.
Thank you. It's been great having you here. All of this information is just truly
So
like,
helpful.
yeah.
Our community will be very grateful.
I think
Yes.
there's a lot of women like me who are more than willing to share any knowledge because it's been a jungle out there.
Yeah. And we are very quickly learning that. It's such
Take
an
no
amazing
prisoners.
community. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Well, that is that. We are so grateful to have had you here today.
Thank you.
Yee. Thank you guys again so much for listening to this episode. We hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want to see more about us, you can follow us on Instagram at NYD Films on Instagram. Also, check our website out at www.notyourdaddiesfilms.com. And if you guys are in the LA area, you guys can come
hang out.
Yeah, come to our events.
We have screenings, we have panels, we have all the things that are going to give you the knowledge to get ahead.
Come hang.
Do all the things.
Come chill.
Daddy Dailies is presented by Not Your Daddy's Films, a social impact organization dedicated to educating and empowering women and non-binary creatives in TV and film. If you like what you heard today, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a positive review. And if you want more Daddy episode insights and links to what we talked about, join us on Patreon.com/NYD Films. Daddy Dailies is produced in partnership with Robert Bailey and edited by Carly Tamarin, Vika Stubblebine, Claudia Restrepo, and Gracie Strauss. See you next time, Daddy.